Welcome to the Deep Dive. If you're looking for a shortcut to understanding what really drives people to create, you've definitely come to the right place. Today, we are immersing ourselves in the extremely personal world of an author named Blaize. We're looking at the material around her book, Affirmations, a love letter to my man.
And this is really a deep dive into inspiration that feels like it was born from sheer necessity. The book is called Affirmations, but the backstory we've looked at, it reveals so much more than just like positive thinking.
Right.
So our mission today is to unpack the traumatic, the spiritual, and just the deeply personal journey that led to this book's creation. It's presented as this spiritual love letter, almost a template from a woman to her partner.
And the whole promise is right there in the title, and you see it in the structure of the content. It's 31 days of, what is it, poetry, love letters, affirmations.
And what she calls peaceful enlightenment.
Peaceful enlightenment.
Right.
It's a whole package, and it's designed, in her words, to cater to his soul.
And that phrase, cater to his soul, that's so significant right off the bat. It tells you the book's goal isn't just about, say, better communication. It's about profound emotional restoration.
So we're going to look at how this book is built. We have to start with the core philosophy she's presenting.
Exactly.
And she kicks it off with a very stark observation about what men are fleeing from. She pulls this quote from the Bible that says, "It is better for a man to sleep on the roof of his house than to sleep inside with a nagging woman."
Wow. That's a powerful image. It's almost desperate.
It is. It suggests the relational conflict is so bad, a man would literally choose to be cold and exposed on a rooftop just to get some peace.
And she takes that idea and just flips it.
Yeah.
She says, okay, if the biggest thing keeping a man from feeling safe at home is nagging and conflict, then the ultimate gift a woman can give him is the peace that surpasses all understanding.
So she's essentially defining a good relationship as a sanctuary, a refuge from all the chaos of the outside world. And that, of course, immediately tells you who she thinks needs this book the most.
Oh, she's very clear about her target audience. This book is for men who are, and this is her phrase, hurting silently.
They're hurting silently.
Yeah, and needing serious healing. And she breaks that group down. It includes guys who've had traumatic childhoods or really hard lives, or maybe they've been, emotionally wounded by past partners who used or taken for granted them.
So the book is meant to guide them toward healing, using her specific kind of love as the medicine, basically.
Right. It's a really altruistic goal. But this is where our deep dive gets into what I think is the central tension of this whole project.
Okay.
Because the book isn't just some broad guide for anonymous healing. When she was asked why she wrote it, she gave 3 really distinct, and you could almost say conflicting, reasons.
This is the critical piece right here. The first intention she gives is incredibly vulnerable. It's so personal. She wrote it hoping to get the attention of her dream man. The idea was that he would somehow read it, realize he's the one she's writing to, and then, get in touch with her.
It's like a spiritual message in a bottle, a high-stakes one. The act of publishing is both a public service and this deeply intimate invitation to one specific unknown person.
The tension is it's huge. She's creating a universal healing manual, but also using it as a super specific personal ad.
And then the second intention is the more universal one we talked about, to help guide other hurting men. And the third is about her legacy.
Right, for future family members who might never meet her, so they can know her heart and get guidance from her work.
So it's like she's trying to solve her own romantic problem, finding a peaceful, worthy partner by first building a whole framework for universal male healing.
Exactly. But to understand why that need for peace is so urgent, so non-negotiable for her, we have to get into the second section here, the traumatic roots of her journey.
It connects absolutely everything. Her actual childhood was so completely different from the fantasy life she built for herself.
She talks about these games she'd play where her Prince Charming would come and rescue her from her home.
And she gives this fantasy prince very specific qualities, right? He was handsome, humble, wise, lovable.
Affectionate. But the key detail, the one that tells you everything you need to know about what she was missing, was that even though this prince had a mansion full of beautiful women,
he only wanted me.
He only wanted her. That speaks to such a profound need to feel uniquely valued.
And when she talks about her parents, she frames it through this spiritual lens that, it feels like it lets her detach from the pain. She sees her creator as my God, and then her earthly parents are just surrogate.
Just the bodies used for her birth, that linguistic distance, it's a clear defense mechanism against what came next.
And the pain was It was just devastating. She says she learned almost everything through trial and error because she had no good relationship with either parent.
That lack of a foundation just left her completely vulnerable.
Totally. And that vulnerability, she says, led her straight into being taken advantage of again and again. She cycled through several toxic relationships, one after another.
She even talks about looking in the mirror and not recognizing the person she saw, just feeling this resentment building up inside.
And the trauma had so many layers. On one side, you've got the constant verbal abuse from her mother.
Who told her she wouldn't ever be anything.
And on the other, the man she calls her earthly father was the source of severe physical and sexual abuse, and it started when she was only 8.
The details are just harrowing. Losing her virginity to his fingers at 11 or 12. She describes one time he tried to penetrate her as the scariest moment of her life, just screaming inside and praying for God to intervene.
Which she believes he did by stopping it.
And the damage wasn't just physical. He reinforced it with these cruel words, telling her she was awkward, ugly, slow.
And that no other man would ever want her.
And she grew up believing that.
And what's so tragic is you can draw a straight line from that childhood programming to her adult relationships. That core belief that she was unworthy led her to men who just reinforced that message.
It's a brutal cycle.
Yeah.
And it reached this awful climax where she admits she had 8 children from men that hated me.
Wow.
The trauma wasn't just influencing her life anymore, it was defining it.
It's an almost impossible cycle to break. But that pattern, having 8 children with men who despised her, that's what finally triggered the turning point. That's where she said, something inside of me just snapped.
That crisis moment happened after her last 2 kids were born. She realized she was letting men gaslight her systematically.
And for anyone who doesn't know, gaslighting is that psychological manipulation where someone makes you question your own sanity, your own memory.
Exactly. And she just decided she was done. Done letting men destroy her sense of reality and her self-worth.
And that decision led to an immediate internal shift. She said that while she always had a relationship with her God, she started to develop an even closer relationship and walk with him.
And that included a huge step. Accepting accountability for her own choices in getting into these relationships in the first place.
Accountability is the pivot. That's the key. It's moving from being a victim, which she absolutely was as a child, to having agency as an adult.
And that acceptance led to new habits. She started consciously slowing down, paying attention to everything, really prioritizing communication to avoid the confusion that gaslighting thrives on.
She even made it official in a way. She wrote and recorded a song called Better with her 2 sons on the track as this tangible promise to herself to never repeat those mistakes.
And that shift just completely changed her approach to dating and her view of herself.
Now, she says she loves her solitude, she loves being single, and she'd rather be alone than to, quote, ever settle for less than I deserve ever again.
That's a powerful statement.
It is, and she describes herself now as compassionate, peaceful, relaxing, and fun. Basically, all the things she wants in a partner she now sees in herself.
But that newfound self-worth has led to some pretty radical boundaries. She talks about it with a bit of humor.
Yeah, the current dating challenge.
Her solution is so extreme that she ends up blocking everyone on her phone before they even meet up.
I mean, it's a wild illustration of that battle between fear and self-worth, right? On the surface, it sounds crazy, but it just reflects this absolute lack of trust from decades of being hurt.
It's a control mechanism. Blocking them before they can even get a foot in the door prevents any chance of disappointment or abuse. It's a complete 180 from the woman who used to accept men who hated her.
And that deep lack of trust in people is exactly why she says finding a real partner depends completely on having a real relationship with God. She just states it flat out. A lot of people today are looking to scam, not love.
And her faith isn't just some vague belief. It's a methodology. It's about seeking divine confirmation.
Right. She points to the story in the Bible of Abraham's servant who's sent to find a wife for Isaac. The servant prays for a sign.
A very specific sign.
Yeah, that the right woman will say or do a particular thing, and that will be the confirmation that she's the one.
And she believes that kind of confirmation is still possible today. And she shares this deeply moving personal story to prove it.
And the context of the story just makes it so much more powerful. This was after a breakup. She's pregnant with her last child. It's the middle of winter, freezing cold.
And she's at a city bus stop with her young daughter who's too small for school and is just shivering.
She describes being at the end of her rope, emotionally and physically, so she closes her eyes and prays for God to send someone to give them a ride home.
But she doesn't stop there. Just like the servant in the story, she asks for a specific sign. She prays that whoever pulls over will say a specific certain phrase to prove the ride is from him.
And the result was immediate, undeniable. Before she could even finish the prayer, a car pulls up. The driver rolls down the window and says the exact phrase she had just asked for.
The relief must have been just immense.
It was. She said she was just overjoyed, crying, thanking God, right there on the street. But what happens next is that ripple effect that shows why she was meant to be a guide for others. The driver sees how emotional she is and starts crying too. And the driver tells her that she was also struggling in her own life. And seeing the author's faith, hearing her story in that moment, it was enough to inspire her to continue to move forward and do better.
Wow. So her own personal moment of answered prayer immediately became a source of strength for a total stranger.
It brings everything full circle, the pain she went through, the specific faith she developed, and how her story could instantly resonate and help heal someone else. It basically confirms for her that her journey is meant to be shared.
It really feels like the book, Affirmations, isn't just advice. It's a public testament. It's a tool created from this profound trauma, and it's doing three things at once.
A spiritual guide, a healing template for other men, and, this deeply emotional, faith-based invitation for the partner she's looking for. She literally turned her own need for peace into a public promise of peace for others.
So to wrap up, her final message for her audience is powerful and direct, and it's bent on that evidence she experienced, she says. Don't be afraid to ask God for exactly what you want. Use your faith and believe.
And her call to action is for men to buy the book or for women to buy it for their man. And she asks that all the praise for it be given to the Most High God.
This whole deep dive just reveals the true cost of the advice we sometimes seek out. This work isn't theoretical at all. It's forged in the fire of childhood abuse and a lifetime of toxic relationships.
Absolutely. That commitment to spiritual accountability and healing, it became the very bedrock for creating a public work about relationship guidance. It's a testament to the power of transformation, really. Moving from being defined by trauma to defining a path forward for other people.
And that leads us to a final thought for you to take with you. How much of the advice we seek out, whether it's a spiritual guide or a self-help book, is ultimately driven by the teacher's own deepest, most painful personal experiences? And when you know that context, when you know this book is written both to heal others and to attract your own dream man, what does that layer of personal yearning add to the message itself? Something to reflect on as you navigate the sources of wisdom in your own life.